What's going on YouTube? So you probably don't need me to tell you that the industry push towards electric vehicles has really kicked into high gear this year. Both established brands and new brands like Polestar have jumped into the marketplace. Now, if you haven't heard of Polestar before, this is a new electric performance luxury brand, which is part of the same group as Volvo, but is unique and different in many ways. But without wasting any more time, let's go ahead and jump right in and see if this is the electric luxury sedan to buy. Now, before we begin, we do want to thank our friend Aaron and his company eVentures for loaning us this Polestar. He has an extensive fleet of Teslas and other electric vehicles available for rent. So if you ever want to try one out before you buy or just drive one for a special occasion, make sure to check out the link to his website provided in the description below. So Polestar is a different brand from Volvo, but you can see some elements of their design make their way into this Polestar too. So up here in the front, we do have a different grille than your typical Volvo, but it does have that same clean and classy look that Volvo is known for. So basically inside, we have these black squares that run through here. Your sensors are nicely hidden right there. And then you've got your Polestar branding painted up here in the same white as the body. Now, as we move over here to your headlights, this is where you'll see more influence from Volvo because we have a very similar setup. We've got that signature Thor's hammer design for your LED daytime running light and turn signal, but we have the special pixel LED headlights. So these actually have 84 individual pixels inside, and of course they are included as standard equipment, as well as the LED fog lights. Now, as far as our wheel options, we do have a few to choose between. You have a standard 19-inch alloy, and on this specific example, we have the optional 20-inch contrast alloys. There is one other 20-inch contrast alloy available when you choose the performance package, and when you pick that option, that is also going to throw in Brembo brakes with special gold calipers. Now that I'm down here, I do want to point out something. You'll notice you have kind of some black moldings around through here that are kind of like an SUV, and you also have kind of SUV-like ground clearance because this shares a platform with the XC40 Recharge, so you actually have 5.9 inches of ground clearance, which is kind of cool. And moving up here to your mirrors, you have all the features as you'd expect. So you have heating, power folding, and auto dimming, as well as blind spot monitoring. Plus you have the really cool frameless design, which is the first vehicle I've ever seen with this look.
So you may be curious as to what this Polestar 2 really is. And here at the side, you're probably getting some mixed emotions about what it is. Is it a sedan? Is it an SUV? Is it a hatchback? Well, I'm gonna say it's kind of a mix of all three. They technically call it a sedan, but as you can see, it has some elements from all of those to kind of give it that mixed design. Now, if you're curious about the length, it's 181 inches, so it's around 3 inches shorter than something like a Model 3. But walking around to the rear design, let's take a look at this. Once again, it's going to be a very interesting design. I kind of like it. So as far as what you're going to get, you're going to have full-length LED taillights. These are fully LED, and as you can see, they have that really cool kind of bracket shape to them. You have your Polestar badge right here, and then every individual element within this taillight is going to be LED. And if we drop down, you're going to notice we have some black plastic moldings to give it that more SUV-like appearance. And one thing that's pretty rare for a sedan is the fact that this Polestar 2 can tow 2,000 pounds. Now, like any Volvo product, safety is obviously going to be a concern for this Polestar 2, so they're going to throw in all of your safety systems standard on all of the models. So that's going to be forward emergency braking and pedestrian detection, adaptive cruise control, auto high beams, as well as lane keeping assist, and you also have their highway driving assistance, but it is hands-on as well. Well guys, that's going to sum up the unique exterior design of this Polestar 2, but I know there's a lot of really cool stuff going on the inside, so let's go ahead and check that out before we take it out in a spin. And before we do all of that, you know what you could help us out with? By hitting that subscribe button down below.
So walking up to the Polestar, you do have a key fob. It's very similar to what Volvos have, but it is made of plastic and has the little logo down there and your buttons off to the side. You can also use your phone as the key as well. And then of course to get inside, just grab behind the handle and it will unlock. right, and taking a look inside of this cabin, as you can see straight from the start, definitely has a very unique and also classy interior design. Now the interior itself is full vegan, at least in the standard configuration. So what you have is a cloth seat. It's made of a different mixture of several different cloths and color contrast stitching, and your choice of charcoal or this slate color. You can also choose a optional Napa leather for $4,000, and that comes in kind of a blonde color. Now turning over here to your door trim, you're going to see the same materials reflected up here as well. So we have a cloth trim across all this area with a stitching detail above it and even along the top. Additionally, this covering over the speaker grill is actually made of cloth, even though they designed it to kind of look like metal, so that's a cool touch. And then down here at the bottom, this is where you'll find your two-person memory seating. Checking out these seats here, they're going to be 10-way power adjusting with 4-way lumbar support. You do have a manual thigh extension as well. And then we'll just kind of take a up-close look at this seating material. Like I said, it's kind of a durable feeling cloth, almost leatherette right here in the middle. Then you have like some softer cloth on the outside edges with the stitching detail. So it's really a cool looking seat. Now looking around this cabin for the first time, you'll continue to find a lot of unique materials throughout. So across our upper dashboard, this is going to be a textured soft touch plastic. And below that we have some more of this fabric material that covers the speaker grills that runs through here. I think that looks really cool. Below that we do have a piece of genuine wood trim. This is going to be a black ash wood. You can get a different color if you choose the Napa leather. Below that we have some more soft touch materials running through here and down through the center console, which is raised up. And everything of course does fit together very nicely, as you'd expect for a luxury vehicle. Now with the Polestar, starting it up, there is no button or anything like that. You also, when you put your foot on the brake, you'll notice it doesn't start up like it does in a Tesla. It actually is going to start up when you put it into drive or reverse. So we'll go ahead and put it into drive right now. So starting off with our gauge cluster, this is a full 12.3 inch digital gauge cluster, as you can tell. And this is the new generation, so it has a lot higher resolution, a lot less reflection versus the one that you've seen in other Volvo products. So this here is of course running with the new Android Auto OS system, which we'll talk about in just a second. But it does allow it to really quickly switch between several different views with a lot of different kinds of information, including having your Google Maps take up most of the display right there. Now coming back to the steering wheel, while most of the interior doesn't really look much like a Volvo product, this steering wheel is pretty much the same as what you get on a Volvo, besides for the badge. It is nicely leather wrapped. We have some piano black trim throughout, and then the wheel itself is going to be manual tilt and telescoping with standard heating. Let's go ahead and check out next the interior storage. Now this car is really primarily about design, so it has a very fashionable look in here. That being said, there's not a ton of storage. You'll notice one cup holder here, and then when I open up the center console, this is actually where the second cup holder lives. So there's not going to be a great deal of space inside of here. I do think you can remove this, however, but just be aware, one cup holder or you won't have any storage there. Now, up in front of that, you're going to have a nice little storage shelf for a phone. This is a wireless phone charging pad as well. And then you've got a little bit of storage down here on the side. But, of course, your coupons, those are going to be relegated to inside of that glove box only. Let's go back to the shifter that we were looking at earlier. Definitely has a really cool design. Sets up on this kind of raised platform here. And as you can see, it does have a kind of a hole in the middle with your little Polestar emblem that glows. Definitely a cool look to it. Operations, very simple. You're just going to pull back to D for drive, bump up in the opposite direction to go into reverse. And when you do, you will first be greeted by a regular backup camera with active trajectory and parking sensor visualization. However, you can press the 360 view, and then you go into a gigantic 360-degree camera angle which takes up the whole display. This is something that's not available on the Tesla Model 3, for example, and you can also click on the individual cameras to see the front and rear. And then for park, just press the P right there. Now there aren't a lot of physical controls inside this cabin since it's very minimalistic. However, you do have a physical volume knob located right there, and it's made of this really nice textured aluminum. What it's going to be controlling is a 600 watt 13 speaker Harman Kardon premium sound system. So we'll go ahead and give that a sample right now. Of course, as you would expect, sound quality of this system is very good and fills up the cabin well. Okay, so now let's take a look next at this display. So just like with a lot of electric vehicles, you have a lot of controls inside of the display. And there's something unique going on with this, and that's because this is the first automotive application of the Android Automotive OS. In its pure form. Now the Volvo XC40 Recharge did have a version, but it looked a little bit different than this. So this is kind of the first one that is just in the pure form, where it has 4 tiles on your home screen like you're looking at right now. So as far as the display itself, this is going to be an 11.2 inch display. Of course, standard across all of the models. And just kind of pointing out some of the main features here. This is of course going to be pretty complicated, so I won't go through everything. But with this new system, basically what it does is give you the power of Google and the Android operating system into your car infotainment system without having to plug in or anything like that. So you have native Google apps such as Google Maps. So you can click right on that and you're going to have that built straight into your car, which is undisputedly the best mapping system available. So you don't have to download any apps or anything like that. Down at the bottom, you press that right there and you've got a home screen. Like I said, you have your 4 tiles there. You also have the ability to download other applications as well. Of course, one of the biggest points of this system is that it is very simple to use. So you have big controls down here at the bottom. You have these tabs across the top so you can get to things quickly, like different things involving your charging, your drive modes, things like that. All very simple and easy to get to. Additionally, down here at the bottom, you're going to have your climate controls. This is going to be a dual zone automatic setup. Right now we have it in the single zone mode, but you can adjust your temperatures right through there. You can also use Google Assistant to control things inside of the vehicle, like the climate controls if you prefer. And then off to the side here, you're going to notice you have your 3-stage heated seats as well as the 3-stage heated steering wheel. You can get seat ventilation, but that's going to require you get those $4,000 Napa leather seats that I mentioned earlier. Alright, now moving above that, we have a frameless auto-dimming mirror with HomeLink remotes as standard equipment, of course. You've got full LED lighting all throughout the cabin, and then up here on the roof you will have a glowing Polestar emblem, which is visible or projects up onto the glass and is visible inside and out, in addition to all the other ambient lighting, of course. And then we have a very large and expansive piece of glass up here. This is included. There is no sunshade, but it is nice and tinted, and obviously this is not going to open up.
Alright, so here I am sitting in the Polestar 2's rear seat, and I have to say this feels pretty much like any other Volvo. This feels pretty similar to like an XC40 here in the rear. As far as the legroom figures are concerned though, it's going to come in at 34 inches of rear legroom, 40 inches of headroom, which is less than the Model 3 in terms of legroom, but more in headroom. And as far as behind rear seat position, I would say probably 5 inches or so of legroom, and my feet can slide up under the seat, so it's not enormously spacious, but it's also not cramped or anything like that. Now, turning our attention towards the features, we do have vents here in the center. We have this nice Volvo design, and then dropping down, we have 2 USB Type-C ports, and heated rear seats are going to be standard equipment on the Polestars too. And then if we fold down the center armrest, we do have cup holders inside. Now walking up to the tailgate, since this is kind of like a hatchback sedan-ish type of deal. It is actually a power hands-free one standard, so just wave your foot under the bumper to open it up. And it does work really well. Now, as far as the space itself is concerned in this cargo area, you're looking at 14 cubic feet of space behind the second row seats. If you fold them down, it goes all the way up to 39 cubic feet. If you're looking as far as like a space comparison, that is pretty much identical to something like the Tesla Model 3. And then if we look at the how they finished it back here, we have a nice carpeting along the floor. And if we lift it up, we do have additional storage up underneath of the floor. We have a 12-volt power outlet here on the left side, and we also have a cargo cover. But now let's go ahead and check out the frunk. Now, in order to open the frunk, you just reach down here and pull that little lever. Then if you run up here, you find the little release, and then that will reveal your little amount of space. This is not a ton. It's probably like, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 grocery bags worth, but certainly not like a Tesla Model Y frunk, but this is usable for a few small items. Now over here in your passenger seat, we do have the power adjustment as well as the power lumbar support. And if we open up the glove box, it does have that unique texture on it. And this is a really, really large glove box. I'm super impressed by how wide this opens, and really there's just a ton of space for our coupons in here. So I'm impressed by that. And then as far as up top with the sun visor, we have a nice LED light, a mirror, and we can also detach, however we cannot extend. Ooh. That's nice.
So yeah, obviously by our reaction, like I said, this is quite quick, which is what I expected given the power numbers on board. So what we've got is a 78 kilowatt hour battery pack and 2 electric motors. Those are both going to be making 204 horsepower each. So front and rear for a total of 408 horsepower, obviously. And that's a really good number for a small sedan.
Yeah. It certainly is enough to put a smile on your face. It's not quite like Tesla Model 3 performance level, but it is certainly very fast. Now, if you're curious about the 0 to 60, it's going to be rated at 4.4 seconds. But aside from the power figures, I do want to mention a few different things. So we're up here in Cincinnati, and the roads are really quite terrible up here. Very, very, very bad roads. So hitting all these bumps, I'm noticing that this vehicle has a very solid feel to it. It's not exactly like the smoothest riding as you would expect. This is very sport oriented, but when you hit the bumps, it just feels very solid, the whole car as a whole, and that's something that Tesla really can't do at the moment. So this is something that you're probably going to notice as compared to a Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
That's
yeah, I like the way they tune the throttle response actually, because I mean it's a little like dull at the beginning to give you that control, like when you just want to be casual and economical, but then like when you push into it, that's when it really kicks in.
And the instant torque, I love it.
And of course, you know, this being a kind of a performance car with your weight on the bottom, this has a very fun and tossable feel, like most electric vehicles do. So when you kind of go around corners and stuff like that, it really has a nice button-down feel. There's also some different configurations you can set it up inside of the system with your steering feel and stuff like that. Right now we're on the standard setting, but there is also one that's more firm.
Now we'll try and get a sound level reading throughout this drive. I'm not sure we'll get up to the 55 miles an hour since we're not really familiar with the area, but let's go ahead and talk about some other stuff that's obviously very important with an electric vehicle. So the EPA range on this is going to be 233 miles, which that is actually going to be today's airball. Is just the simple fact of the matter that 233 miles of range, when you compare it to a Model 3, that's less than even the Standard Range Plus, which is the lowest priced Model 3 you can get. Nice.
And this right here is those settings I was speaking about earlier. That's where you can change things like your brake region. You can also have the car creep forward or just kind of hold in place. It's all, depending on your preference, and very similar to what you can do in Tesla.
Yeah.
So if I turn this on to one pedal drive here, you can see it pretty much pull us to a stop there.
Now, as far as actually charging the Polestar 2, obviously you're not going to have like a Tesla supercharged network, but you do have 150 kilowatt DC fast charging abilities.
Right, through any of the other networks that support that. And let's go ahead and mention today's slam dunk. Now, as we've talked about, this of course is a competitor to the Tesla Model 3, and I think one of our most distinct advantages of this over top of the Tesla Model 3 has got to be this cabin.
Yeah.
This is a really lovely cabin. Really big fan of this design. It really is a cool looking design, as well as just a really unique material selection and stuff like that, and really nice quality. Very solid and nice feeling. So really don't have any complaints about this cabin. Or besides for these weird vents. They don't,
I don't know what this.
I mean, they kind of point at you, but I don't know. It's like they're facing the windshield.
But how much is this Polestar 2 going to set you back? Well, like we've been mentioning throughout this review, it's just one trim level. There's a few options on it. So it starts at $59,900 with standard all-wheel drive. Now this one, with a few options as well as the destination charge of $1,300, rings in at $63,750, which that is pretty steep, I must admit. However, do keep in mind that with the new Polestar brand, that does qualify you for the $7,500 tax credit, so you can kind of subtract $7,500 off of that, depending on your tax situation.
Right. And at the end of the day, this is a luxury vehicle after all, so you will have to, pay a little bit to play in that sense. But, in conclusion, I think this Polestar 2 really is just a super unique product. You could say, in a sense, brands like Tesla have kind of, moved into the mainstream. You're likely to see a few of them in your neighborhood, but you're not going to see another Polestar in your neighborhood. This is a really unique product. It's a very good electric vehicle that just stands out in a lot of different ways from the competition. And, I think, like I said, just is really a unique and cool thing that's going to stand out.
Well, guys, we really appreciate you watching this in-depth review of the all-new 2021 Polestar 2. Really appreciate you watching, and if you made it this far, hopefully that means you enjoyed watching. So be sure to hit that subscribe button down below. It's completely free. It doesn't cost you anything. And also hit that notification bell as well to get notified on all of our most recent content. We're going to have a lot of really cool stuff coming up, so you won't want to miss out on that. Anyway, we'll catch you next time as we sample more of the latest automotive delicacies.